Good morning and hello. Welcome everyone to our Roxhill webinar. This is about the fifth or sixth one we've done. And today I'm very excited. My name is Emma Cripwell and I do the PR for the Pig Hotels and consult for Roxhill Media. And today as our panel, we have Ed Grenby, editor of Sunday Times Travel magazine. Hello, Ed. And we have Lyn Hughes, editor of Wanderlust magazine. Look, Ed was even showing us his magazine. Look, they've both got their magazines, so well equipped. We are waiting for Sarah Tomczak from Red to come on stage, but she's having a couple of tech issues which are being sorted out in the background at the moment. And my colleague Alessia Horwich, who used to be at the Sunday Times and is now at Roxhill Media as our editorial director. Alessia's actually had coronavirus, so she is recovering, but still not quite there yet. We will kick off, and it's great to have, we've got 42 of you listening in, which is brilliant. First of all, guys, how have the past, let's say, 4 weeks been for you? I know each week has been insanely different, but how's it been for you, Ed?
Oh gosh, I was going to say Lyn has to go first. They've been, awesome, same as they have for everyone else. It's been fun, right? It's been, I think, challenging is the usual euphemism, isn't it? We're doing fine, weirdly, well, relatively fine, weirdly, on sales. It's just a nuisance trying to put magazines together and convince people to travel, as I suspect most of us are finding out.
Yeah, and I'll ask you that question as well, Lyn. How have your few weeks been? Because I then want to understand how on earth you put together a magazine. But how have you been in the past 3 or 4 weeks? You're actually enjoying lockdown in a funny way, aren't you?
I mean, the day-to-day of actually being in lockdown at the moment and being in this little bubble is in itself quite pleasant, in that I live somewhere very beautiful and I'm, in contact daily with the team, and it's all very pleasant, not having to commute anymore. So there are some benefits out of it. But having said that, of course, it's been a really weird few weeks, and I think it's gone from the initial impact that was suddenly so fast. I think of that as the sort of shock and awe stage. There was that sort of fortnight when suddenly everybody had to work from home. And we were starting work at that point on our May issue that was due to go to press about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it was going to be 180 pages. And we were working away on that. And then, of course, I got told, some of the advertisers have pulled out.
How many advertisers pulled out?
In the end, the majority have. And
really?
Something like 85%, maybe 90%. And so we went from the fact that I was going to have a 180-page magazine, and then I kept having to re-flat plan it at a smaller size. We deferred the printing of it anyway. We decided that rather than being a May issue, we'd make it a May-June issue. So it finally went to press last night at 100 pages. Instead of 180. So so that was the impact, certainly on the print magazine.
Right.
And so we've been through these different stages, like I say, where it was the kind of the shock, but also the novelty, working at home and making that work. Then there was all the bad news coming in, as advertisers pulled out and what that would mean. And it is a situation that just continues to evolve. Got another management meeting today when we'll be looking at plans for the next few weeks. And I think the only thing I do know at the moment is can't take anything for granted, and it's very hard to plan. In theory, today I would be now, starting on the next issue of the magazine, for instance. But and it would all be planned. I'd know exactly what was going to be in it. But actually, I'm keeping a very open mind. I'm going to have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and so on.
Gosh, yeah, hard. And Ed, have you merged 2 issues into one or not? Are you keeping going with monthly?
God, I wish I'd thought of it. It sounds idyllic. I might merge 6 into one. Why
you should have chatted.
Yeah, merge the next 12 into one. No, we've soldiered on. Our timing was fortunate or unfortunate. We just finished an issue just on the last day of being allowed to work in the office. no, we're cracking on. We've, our advertising partners and our PR partners have been kind to us and have, we've tried to support them and they've tried to support us. So yeah, of course, we've lost a bunch of advertising as well, though not enough when we weighed up the sums to make it worth skipping issues or squidging anything together. Close, and as you say, Lyn, of course, evolving, and who knows what tomorrow's going to look like. But no, we are we're soldiering on. That's what the industry would want of us. That's what the little guy running his B&B in Candy would want from us, and that's what we're trying to do.
And what have been how as an industry, as the PR industry, how have we helped you, and how can we carry on helping you? Because we are scratching our heads as much as you guys are, and we are desperate to get our clients in. What's the plan for the next few weeks, Ed?
In the short term, I mean, as Lyn said, so I said we're soldiering on. We're doing different things. We've just put our June issue to bed, and it's an unusual one for us. Obviously, there's no point just doing the same sort of normal issue as normal. So we've done this. I don't know if that's at all visible. There's a sneak preview.
Get ready.
That's our new cover. So for the next two issues, for June and July, we're doing special issues, which are planning issues. Hey, we know you're not going anywhere now, but it's the perfect time, as I think it says, now's the perfect time to plan your post-lockdown trip. And we have cleared out the normal content of the magazine, all the sections, all the regulars, all the bits and pieces, and we have just done that. We've taken the 70 most amazing trips we can think of. We put 35 in the June issue, 35 in the July issue, and it's just how to plan them. So it's less about, turn left and go into this little restaurant here and order the prawns, they're spectacular, and more about, okay, this is how you will put together that trip to the Philippines or that trip to India or whatever, those big trips that you've been wanting to take. You've now got the time. Our readers are telling us on social that I've now got the time to sit down and plan those big trips that I've always wanted to do and never done. So we're trying to give them the wherewithal to do that. To answer your question more directly, what can PRs do to help us with that? It's a possibly slightly frustrating issue. It's a frustrating answer in that kind of pleasant and liberating for me, possibly less so for our PR partners. It means that for once, we get to put in the fact boxes the people we really would travel with and really would recommend to our colleagues instead of the guys who've hosted on trips. So we are sort of free to say what we think. How this one you should just put together independently. This one you need to speak to these experts, and these experts. So I am open, of course. We are open to hear from PRs on this stuff. But I'm sorry for such a long rambling answer. Predominantly, we kind of know what we're doing for June and July. It's quite simple, and it's planning stuff. August, September, October. I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a meeting this afternoon on what we're going to do in August. And September was to be our 200th anniversary issue, our 200th issue. We were planning all sorts of big, exciting specials for that. Big parties, 200-page issue, lots of grand fancy fireworks and whiz bangs. That may now not happen. We are not quite sure yet. I am certainly interested. Sorry, I will shut up in 2 seconds. I promise. I'm certainly interested in hearing from the industry on anyone who can give anything away at the moment. We were hoping to do all sorts of, 200 tickets to XYZ, or 200 free loyalty points for every reader, or a £200 voucher for ABC. So if anyone is in the giving things away mood, which conversely might make sense at the moment, then I'm definitely all ears on that. Sorry to ramble on.
Good top tip. Thanks, Ed. And welcome, Sarah Tomczak from Red. It's so nice to have you fashionably late. I'm sure tech was letting you down. And it's great to have you here. So just to introduce you, Ed Grenby is editor of Sunday Times Travel Magazine, and Lyn Hughes, editor of Wanderlust. And it's just good to have Sarah, who commissions the travel pages within Red, to tell us about how she's putting together, another long lead issue, which presents new challenges compared with broadsheets. So, Sarah, first of all, how is your lockdown going?
Well, many technical issues, as you can see.
Is that Wi-Fi, or what is that?
Well, we were doing so well, but then my laptop wasn't supporting it, and my husband tried to download it on his laptop, and it's actually my husband's birthday today, so we've had a slow start because we've been celebrating birthday cakes, and I've just taken my party hat off now. Which
I wish you'd left it on.
I should have done, shouldn't I? But lockdown is not going too badly. We have our new issue goes on sale this week, and it's the first one that we've created entirely in lockdown. which obviously I'm sure, you know, for you guys working on newspapers, you've been doing many of these, but for us it's quite early days to suddenly have a magazine out that actually none of us saw each other during the making of, and that obviously feels very strange. But I have a copy of it with me already, and I think, okay, I feel like we've done not a bad job, all things considered.
Well done, well done. And the travel pages, are they talking about future dream travel trips?
Well, because we work so far in advance, and so I have to that's our June issue. We're already working on the July and August issue, so we already actually have trips that people have gone on that we're writing about for those issues. My challenge is, come September, October, November, then I won't have anything to write about. So actually I have purposefully stayed true to the schedule that we originally had for those pages, partly because that's all the content I had available, and partly because I do also think that there is a real escapism in magazines like Red, and the feedback that I've had from people is that obviously they are reading newspapers and listening to the radio and hearing the news every day, and everything is about COVID and about the sort of challenges and the situation we're in now. And so actually something like Red is a much needed escapism. So I'm really sort of sticking to that philosophy in the content in the magazine as well. So actually the issue that's just come out now is all long haul destinations, and I think I've called it Someday I'll Fly Away, with the idea that we will be going back one day soon, we hope.
We hope, absolutely. And Lyn, just to you and your future issues. So, you know, we as PRs are really keen to still do our jobs if we can, and if we haven't been furloughed. What sort of stories are you looking for over the next, let's say, 2 months? Because I know we can't plan far ahead.
Yeah, well, like I say, because things are evolving so quick, I'm having to keep a really open mind. So at this point, I should probably mention the website, because whereas with the magazine, yes, we have to plan it well ahead. And I do have a logjam of articles that we could run. And also what we will do next issue is probably do a major UK piece. So in fact, I am actually looking at the moment for some really good UK ideas, because that will probably be our lead one in the next issue, which wasn't the original plan. But day to day, we're still doing the website, of course, and the website did take a hit during that first week or two that people were in lockdown. But now the traffic has come right back up.
Good.
We've changed the sort of content we're putting up. There's still some of the more regular stuff that we put on there, but basically we're finding that people are looking for ways to entertain themselves. So quizzes are doing really well. Armchair travel, virtual stuff, you know, live cams, and positive stories. People are desperate for good news stories. And so if we do anything with a positive spin, that seems to do really well. And so certainly some of the stuff that we are putting up at the moment, it has very much come from PRs sending things into us, whether it's the whole idea or just where we've been able to pick out bits. So we are actively looking in our inboxes every day for those sort of ideas. Because it's working so well, and you know, Ed mentioned about how on social they're hearing from their readers. Well, we have, you know, our actual engagement with readers has gone up in the last few weeks through all the different channels, and we've had some, you know, wonderful emails and wonderful messages through social from readers saying how, you know, we're kind of helping keep them going. We're almost, you know, providing a service for them with the website and our newsletters. And so we're very conscious of that. So we're actually producing, if anything, more content than before online with a smaller team, because half the team are furloughed. And so that's, like I say, is where PRs certainly can help.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ed, do you see yourself writing about UK destinations as your first sort of non-planning to go away type theme?
Yeah, it's a debate we've been having for the last couple of weeks. It's I mean, it's only in the last few days, I'd say, we've got any kind of clarity that we can assume that we will get unlocked domestically before we get unlocked overseas. So yes, that seems an obvious way of doing it. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because as you say, Lyn, that so much of what we do in the glossies is travel porn, it's escapism, it's all the rest of it. So telling people, hey, don't forget there's Cornwall. While Cornwall is beautiful, we did a special on Cornwall last summer. It's hard to picture an entire issue UK based without, frankly, just being boring. Then, of course, you have the practical issues, because whatever happened, in whatever way lockdown is loosened up, it seems unlikely there's going to be a free for all. Hey, everyone, come down to Cornwall, which can get pretty busy at the best of times or the worst of times, or whatever it is. I'd just add to what Lyn said. Yeah, we in our front section, we're still doing a sort of newsy section at the front, just as you say, Lyn, looking for positives. In the one we just put to bed, we have, small independent producers who will send you the olive oil, the rosé, the soap, whatever, those things that you loved about your holiday, that that when you have that smell and it straight away takes you back there. We're talking about those guys who can send you that. We're publicizing all those many hotels and tour ops and tourist boards and the rest of it, who are putting some sense of their experience online in webinars or whatever. So we're very interested in those kind of news stories, and indeed just regular news stories. We still have those news pages to fill, and anyone who's still launching a thing, anyone who hasn't cancelled their launches, anyone who's got a new tour that is in their brochure even for next year, whatever, we're interested in that stuff.
Yeah. And Sarah, with your issues, are you still doing monthlies? You're not going to, Lyn puts two of the May and June issue together. You're going to still produce one a month, are you?
Actually, it's been interesting because across the company, across Hearst, I think on some of the other titles, they are looking at producing a double issue. Some of the magazines that perhaps aren't quite as a big circulation drivers. And also some magazines that for all of us, it's really challenging because we can't shoot anything. So we can't shoot fashion stories, we can't shoot celebrity interviews. So, for some of the fashion magazines, I think it's a real challenge to actually find anything to fill their pages. But luckily for Red and for Good Housekeeping and for Prima and for Country Living and House Beautiful and the more lifestyle magazines in the portfolio, because we have such a varied array of content, there's lots in there for people to read. And so actually I think that we've seen our subscriptions have gone up 200% in the past 2 weeks. It's been phenomenal.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy. So across the board, there have been incredible increases in subscriptions. So no, we're not doing double issues. But I am very lucky in that I produce 10 pages of travel content per issue. So I have an awful lot less pages to fill than certainly than Ed does. So I think it's less of a challenge for us. But I think the tricky thing is we have always done review-based travel. So we are having to look at how going forward, what we're going to write when we haven't been to the places to visit. And I think the other thing that is a real challenge for us is our budgets have really been slashed to try and balance out. Obviously, although our subscriptions have gone up hugely, places to actually buy magazines are practically non-existent. And I know, we always call our summer issues our Gatwick issues, because they are the issues that sell hugely because people buy them at the airport. And of course, that's not happening. So definitely we're having to balance that out, and obviously loss of advertising with reducing our editorial budget. So that is also a challenge. We just don't necessarily have the budget we had before to commission things out or to send people places. So we're having to look at clever ways to overcome that, really.
Lyn, press trips. I know that we'll have many of us listening in now will go, I've got this press trip, it's got to happen. When do we start telling you about press trips? Or do we just sort of not until any of us know what's going on after the 7th of May?
Oh, it's so hard, isn't it? Because I think that we were all really confident that, come late summer or something, we'd all be back out there. I was supposed to be on a press trip myself to Australia in April, and this month, I think it was only this month. Oh my god! And Dream Trip was going to get, you know, at least two features out of it. And then, you know, talking to the tourist board, and oh yes, you know, maybe in the autumn, you know, we were talking September, October, and now you think, well, that ain't going to happen. That'll be next year. So it's so hard to tell. But one thing for sure is, and kind of something Ed touched on as well, is that I will need to be looking ahead to next year. And so even feeding in stories now for next year is good. Feeding in anything, you know, the usual sort of thing that we like, hooks and anniversaries and things that will be applicable to next year is good. And you could always start dangling press trips for the end of the year, things to run in 2021. And you know, and yeah, I'm not saying I would guarantee getting somebody on it, but would be interested. It would be lovely to get some plans in for the end of the year.
Good. And Ed, with travel news, so say one of us has a hotel opening in the Caribbean, are you keen to hear about that now, or is it much more relevant to tell you when the doors are actually opening? What's the score with travel news that you might not be running until, say, the autumn issues?
That's a great question. Yeah, I'm interested now is the short answer. As I say, it's tougher to fill. As I said, you know, we've cleared out the normal sections of the issue. The only one section that we kept is a front section, just because it feels really weird to, just in magazine terms, to just go straight into the features well and all the heavy stuff. So yeah, we are doing a fronty news section with our normal sort of mix of products and launches and stuff. So the short answer is, yeah, it's good to hear about that stuff now, because it's, as I say, slightly tougher to fill at the moment than normal, because a lot of people are deferring their launches or their new routes or their new openings or whatever. So yes, please.
Okay.
And
just on that, sorry, can I interrupt quickly?
Yes.
Ed, how do you know how long you're going to be doing away with your regular features? Is that just for these 2 issues, or are you looking at it in a longer sort of plan?
As you know, the government's deputy chief medical officer myself, I took the decision that those 2 issues would be enough. That would get us over the corona hump, and then we could return to normal. I'm now revising that decision. I don't know how long we'll have to keep doing specials for, but it looks like August might be one. As I say, September was always going to be a special anyway, because that's our 200th issue. October, I'm crossing everything I've got. You know, we'll just. I wish I could answer it. Sorry, I haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
And Lyn, have you done anything like that too for your compiled issue? Have you got rid of any regulars? Because these regulars are such easy wins for PRs in a sense, and to have them gone is. I
described how we went
one.
from 180 pages down to 100, and you know, I took out first one feature, then another feature, and then it was the regulars I had to start cutting, and also replacing them with, you know, more pertinent content. So, you know, we've put 4 pages of armchair travel into the front of this one. But we've lost things like we usually have a dream sleep feature as well, for instance, which is one gorgeous place to stay, you know, aspirational, very eco-friendly. That went. Yeah, so various of those have gone and probably won't come back in the short term. We'll have to see. Like you say, they were the easy wins, and so some of those will be sitting on file because some of them had already been planned, or, you know, even commissioned or written. And so we replaced, some of them were sort of dropped altogether, some of them were replaced with armchair travel, or we've been running a little campaign on social called Wish I Was There, when readers have been talking about places, you know, really happy memories that they've got. And so that went in instead. And I should imagine that's what we'll be doing for at least the next couple of issues before bringing the regulars back again. But
will you bring them back then, or are you going to see this as an opportunity to sort of have a think about new ones, incorporating maybe things that you're doing online?
Yeah, I mean, I always like to see these things as an opportunity. And we are working differently as well. You know, half the team have been furloughed. And so for the core team who have left, been left, it's meant that we are, we're all working perhaps more collaboratively. So somebody who was almost entirely print before is helping on digital, and somebody who was doing something else before, etc. So I wouldn't be surprised if some changes do come out of it, both in the way we work and in some of the content that we cover. And even with and we are, because we're having to be more efficient, obviously. So we're trying to think the things we put on line. Oh, what can we then do with it? Can we feed some of that back into the magazine? And and whereas before it tended to be more the other way around. And we had amazing plans for this year to grow. I mentioned offline before we started that we'd taken half a floor on another floor in the building that we're in, and because the plan was to really grow this year, and there was going to be a lot of expansion, which I can't really go into, and now we're having to think that's going to have to be next year. So there will be changes, things will evolve. I think a lot of the regulars will come back, because we do continually poll readers anyway as to what they're enjoying. But there might be one or two go, but we might find that going forward, we don't know how this is going to impact us. We don't know how this is going to impact our travels, and it may throw up some other ideas or some other things that we should be covering, which is the exciting thing about it. There's always opportunities in these times as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the thing. With PRs contacting you, what are the things that we're doing well as a community and impressing you with, and what are the things that we're not doing ourselves any favors with? Are there some emails that are completely irrelevant now, and then some that you think, oh, that's really great, he or she's adjusted to the climate? Sarah?
I think that the challenge obviously is that, well, certainly for me, the challenge is that I'm not really necessarily looking for travel news stories, and I'm not looking for, I need to fill my pages with reviews, really. And so it's very challenging to have, there's not an awful lot that you guys can do for me at the moment.
Right.
Because I'm sort of treading water a little bit. So I'm kind of having to.
Sarah, how long can you leave it before you start planning these more trips that you need to plan to do for your pages? I'm lucky in that I have certain resources that I'm able to tap into, because we quite often have trips that just live on digital, that have lived on Read Online, that haven't gone into print, because we have to be more prolific with our trips that go into print, because we only have about go online, because we only have about I will either do sort of 3 big reviews in the travel section, and they're double page spreads and they're really beautiful, and we're focusing on one hotel, far flung, or we quite often then might do a British or a European destinations, and it's a page per issue. But even so, we're only looking at about 6 reviews max per issue. But because we're able to be much more prolific in digital, there's a lot of reviews that we have done that have just gone online, so I can dip into that. And I also have the opportunity, we really share content across our lifestyle group. So there might be reviews that have gone into Good Housekeeping, say, that I'm able to take and sort of tweak and rework, or even something like Harper's Bazaar, because obviously across Hearst we can work across all. Sorry, this is my daughter. that can work across those. So I do have those options, but I am also now at a point where I have to think, come October, what am I going to do? And again, I think I'm not quite sure yet. I don't have the answers. So if anyone's got the answers and they can share them with me, that would be wonderful.
Okay. Ed, would you rather some of us press pause on some of our emails at the moment, or do you just want us to keep sending them to you?
Keep sending them to my team, not me.
Not you.
Delighted to hear from you guys, and very appreciative of there's a relative scale in how coronavirus has affected the world. I know there are some people who are dying, and there are some people who've had to work slightly harder because it's annoying that we can't do it on our computer. Even in that top end of the scale, I appreciate that we probably have things easier than you folks, and very sympathetic that you guys have got to get people into pages. So yeah, please continue to email. You know, we can always ignore them. It has been known for journalists to ignore emails.
Never.
So no, keep them coming. In terms of trips, hell, put me on the plane. The first plane that's leaving, I want to be on that trip. For me, there's no sense of it'd be bad taste or inappropriate or bad timing to go on trips now. By the time that it's okay to go on trips, it will be okay to go on trips, if you see what I mean. I also have a great big store cupboard of stuff that we can run. You know, we're like the 747 that runs out of fuel and continues to glide for some hours. We can keep going, but hey, it's fun to travel. We want to do it, so we want to keep it fresh. We don't want to do everything from the store cupboard, ideally. So yeah, let's keep hearing from you, please. One thing, because I sympathise with the plight, one thing you can go back and tell your clients that you did is, for the first time, because I say we have these 2 planning special issues, we stuck at the back of the book. We've done a great big 2-page spread, which no pictures, nothing, just words, just listing tour up after tour up after tour up after company after company after hotel after hotel. You can tell your clients you got them, you got people in. That was frankly just there only to help you guys out. You know,
that is very kind. That's brilliant.
I'm not sorry. I'm not. It's not pure magnanimity. It's useful for readers, but I just wanted to, you know, rather than just mention the one person who had hosted us on a trip. On, you know, there's an infinite number of people you go to Florida with. So we just wanted to try and capture a bit more of that. And like, you could go with these guys, or these guys, or these guys. So have a look at that issue when it comes out. That will hit the stores on the first Thursday of next month. I think that's the 7th or the 4th or something. Have a look at that and then claim it as your own work.
We've actually had a question from someone, Ed, that says with travel pages and news generally, are you really sticking to pure travel, or are you in these times opening things up a little bit more to more lifestyle-y products, sort of to fill the pages? I assume for you it's travel.
Just as Lyn was saying in that front section, we are acknowledging that, hey, you're not traveling at the moment. Here's the armchair stuff. Here's the books and the movies, but also, as I say, the products people can send you and the things you can do online, attempt to replicate the experience. So no, for that small front section, we are interested in that lifestyle stuff, particularly if it's travel related. For the main part of the book, you know, 80% of it, it's just holidays. Sorry.
And just so we understand, which of your team, Ed, have been furloughed and which are still working, so that we know who to send stuff to?
Everyone's still working. No one furloughed just yet. I'm quite tempted to announce on air live now. I'm going to get rid of those 3, but no, we're all still chugging on.
Okay, good to know. And Lyn, which of your writers do we send our news to and our releases to if we think they're relevant?
It's probably best to use our generic email addresses. Like our digital editor, Elizabeth, is still very much working, but she's also got a generic one called Website @. Right. What we're doing is, because the team's collaborating more as well, it makes more sense probably to use the generic ones. So we've got info@Wanderlust, and we've got editorial @Wanderlust, and we've got website @Wanderlust. So feel free to use any of those.
And they're checked sort of at various intervals through the day. People look at them.
Yes, they are checked at different intervals through the day. And one of the people in particular, Rosie, who was our kind of commercial editor, who used to deal with the kind of editorials and native content. As there isn't much of that at the moment, she's actually in a much broader role at the moment, and she's the one looking after a lot of the stuff that's coming in and making sure that, checking that we have had it, etc. Various people should have whatever. So that's working well, and I'm happy to, at the moment, certainly I'm happy to receive things myself as well. So because it's sleeves up time, and we're all in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you all had a crystal ball, which destinations do you think we might be traveling to first? And I'm not going to hold you to a timeline because we don't know that, but where do you think we will be getting on planes to, whenever it might be? Ed?
Oh, it's always me. If I had a crystal ball, I'd see what Lyn and Sarah were going to say and then agree with them. I get the impression, and frankly, this is only from people with much bigger brains than me, like yourselves, that the pent-up demand is for family travel. I want to go and see those sisters, brothers, parents, children who I haven't been able to see. I just suddenly realised how precious those people are to me. That's obviously from people who haven't been locked down with their families, who just want to get away as far as possible. So multi-generational travel, I think, will be a thing in terms of destinations. I guess that is likely to mean villas. I guess it's likely to mean Europe. Then people are telling, I mean, they're getting really interesting things. You know, people have been asking that exact question on social, and we're getting interesting little pockets of answers. There is a big pocket around, I'll tell you what I'm missing, big city buzz. I've been locked down. I haven't been able to go out. I haven't had a drink. I'm going to New York. I'm going to Beijing. I'm going to Hong Kong, whatever. And then there's another tranche of people who are just, oh, you know, I've realized what I care about really. I just want to be on the beach. I just want to get out of here. I don't want to see that house over there any longer. I want to see a palm tree. So in terms of actual specific destinations, I don't think anyone's agglomerating around, we're all going to Sri Lanka. But I think there are those different themes. I mean, right. I guess essentially it's the same thing as normal. People want to go different places, but they just need to be crystallizing around specific types of holidays. I've had a few people also want to hit the road, big road trips.
Okay.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Sorry.
No, interesting. Sarah, do you agree, or is your reader different?
I think for my reader, it's actually really interesting. We've done, we did a piece in the magazine last month, which was just serendipitous because we'd actually commissioned it back in January. So we had no idea where we would be now. But it's by Rosie Green, who's one of our regular writers, used to have a column in Red, and she's wonderful.
And she's one of our rock stars.
Yeah, she's one of our writers.
Exactly, she is. And she wrote a gorgeous piece for us on her little hits of happiness. So they were the sort of small free things in life that bring you instant joy that you maybe take for granted and maybe you shouldn't. And she wrote it in January. So at the time when she was writing about freshly washed hair and suddenly finding a pound in the bottom of your bag and the weight of a child on your lap and all these different things, they had a different significance to the one they have now. But interestingly, when we put this piece online and I put something on my Instagram, and I had loads of responses with people sharing their sort of little hits of happiness, and a lot of them were around holidays, really. One person said that moment where you get off a plane and you feel the warm air hit your face.
Nothing better.
Isn't there? I mean, I thought, oh yeah, I get that. And a lot of them were around warm holidays, sunshine, beaches. I think for our readers, a lot of them will be looking for a way to escape somewhere in Europe, maybe somewhere like Greece or Portugal, somewhere with a sandy beach and a boutique hotel that is sort of more attainable financially. I think everyone will have these big sort of wanderlust ideas, but actually I don't know economically how much people will be able to facilitate that. But I think people are going to be more inclined to say, maybe in the October half term, if that's even doable by then, let's jump on a plane and go to Greece and have a week in the sunshine.
Yeah. Lyn, same question to you, but actually Sarah's point about people not having as much money to splurge on holidays, that might shape your pages accordingly?
I think there's going to be several factors, and yes, I think a lot of people will have less money. They'll have been furloughed, or they'll have lost their jobs, or they won't be getting their bonuses or whatever. So we've got to see what the impact of that is yet. But it will also, obviously, as I keep saying, I wrote a piece for our website a couple of days ago where I said, because so many readers have been saying, when are we going to be able to travel again? And so I had to say, it isn't like the world's going to just be turned back on like a switch. The switch, it's sort of where you can go anywhere. It is going to be different. And it will be open in stages. So we did actually do a reader survey about 10 days ago. We had over 2,000 responses, and we're going to be publishing those results later this week. But amongst the questions we asked them there was, where did they think their first trip would be after lockdown lifted? And not surprisingly, the UK came out top. And Europe was after that. And I think it was a reflection that people imagine, yes, their first trip, as soon as they can get out, they will, but somewhere relatively easy. And let's face it, I do think anyway that it's going to be certain European countries that are going to open first. But then another question further on, which I'm not sure if we're going to include in the report or not, but it was a free text field saying, where would you like to travel this year? And suddenly that's much more, if you imagine, what you might think of a Wanderlust reader as, is everybody wants to go to New Zealand, and they want to go to Vietnam, and they want to go to South America, Chile, so that's where it was all much more the wish list destinations. But I think on a practical level, I think summer, if things start moving, and autumn, it's going to be the UK and Europe, and easy to get to destinations that are going to really benefit.
Yeah. Alessia, did you have some other questions?
I've got one
we're nearly out of time.
One, because obviously this is going to change the way that we travel. I was wondering if you guys are thinking about that and it's informing your future content. So we were talking a lot before this all kicked off about sustainable travel, and Emma isn't flying this year, which has become significantly easier.
Such an easy year not to fly.
But it was sort of ramping up a bit, this whole flightless travel and things like that. Do you think that COVID is going to contribute to that, and are you thinking about that for the future, for maybe next year, for your coverage and what you're going to be running? Sarah?
I think there is I think the way we are kind of thinking about the world and thinking about our place in it and thinking about what will change when we come out of this. I think we are all going through that thought process, and I think I think for me there will be much more question about, do we really need to have this weekend away in Europe? I mean, I saw something the other day about someone saying about hen do's and stag do's and this sort of default setting of, well, you have to go to Europe for something like that. And I don't know, maybe that's the wrong demographic, perhaps, to be thinking that they won't suddenly want to go off to Ibiza for a weekend. But I do think that we are going to be questioning where we travel to and what we need to travel for. And I think that is a double whammy of corona, the coronavirus and the kind of the impact of that, along with sustainable travel. I think it's going to be, I think we are just generally going to rethink how we travel and why we travel and what's necessary for travel. I think our readers are still going to be going on holiday, because I think that actually for all of us, it's one of the highlights of our year, isn't it? And I think that most of our readers will probably still do a long haul travel, a trip a year, and then maybe another trip to Europe. But I think that people will be thinking a lot more carefully and a lot more seriously. And I think it's the double whammy of both of these huge kind of impacts on the way we live.
Do you feel the same, Ed?
Crystal ball again. I think it's really hard to know what impact this is all going to have, but you're absolutely right that there was something happening before all this. This could throw that out of the window, or it could speed it all up. I'm ancient enough to remember the last recession and what that did to my readers' holidaying habits. They didn't start taking fewer holidays, they just started taking them for longer. Just the average duration went up by a night or two. And I wonder if that may be the same sort of thing, whether it's for financial reasons or green reasons, or even just because, hey, we really appreciate those small hits have happened to us. We really appreciate what we get now. I think there's amongst my readers, perhaps something of a trend to not just have that quick 1 night, 2 night break, but not to skip it, but just to, hey, let's make it a 5 night break. Why don't we make this a proper holiday? Certainly something I've noticed amongst my team, just personally. Maybe it's just because we're getting older, but we just all, those trips that we would used to turn around in 2 nights and come back on the red eye and just carry on now. Do you know what? Why aren't they taking 4 nights and enjoying it? So I would like to think that will be replicated in the wider traveling public. And I think, as you say, we were seeing some steps in that direction before. So let's hope they carry on.
Is that something a PR could address for you? So they could sort of say, look, you used to do this as a 2-dayer, but add this on and it's a 5-dayer and it's so much better.
Yeah, they could say, we'll put you up for 5 nights instead of 2.
Lucky PRs.
You know, joking aside, that has always been a factor. You know, I'm useless. I'm an idiot, and I am often taking the. Yeah, I'll take that trip, and oh great. First of all, there's that crazy work thing we have. Was like, oh great, that's the minimum number of days out of the office I can do. And as I say, as I get older, I'm less keen on that. But I'm also serious about the accommodation thing. That's an issue. And someone says they'll give you 2 nights, you think, oh, I'll do some 2-night trip. If you can get an extra 3-4 nights out of someone, it's like, I can actually get more of this, and I can usually get a bigger story. Or if you're on staff, as we all are, I will get 2. You know, I will get 1.5 stories or 2 stories, or 1 story for that, and another one that's going to go in our list feature that I know we're going to do next year, or the one after, or whatever.
Yeah. Lyn, somebody has asked, Daisy has asked if you wonder if maybe because of all this, sustainable travel is going to go right down the agenda, and people are just going to want to go anywhere because they're so desperate to get out. What do you think?
There could be. That could be a factor, and this is it. I'm really torn. You know, as I'm sure you all know, Wanderlust tends to be anyway about. We like to say we're about sustainable travel. We are the one that is, and always have been. We have, for instance, a conscious traveller column, and we've always said to our contributors that sustainable travel underpins everything that we do. So we like to sort of think, you know, that that's our readership. But actually, at the end of the day, even though everybody as well has enjoyed this time where nature's back, you know, literally on the streets in some cases, and even though there's been a move towards, you know, being more sustainable, perhaps not flying, staying longer, etc., and all the things we preach, I can see, though, that on the other hand, yeah, people have been cooped up and they're going to be desperate to go out again, and they're going to be desperate to go and, you know, sit in a plaza somewhere overseas with a cold beer, or go and have, you know, that beach holiday with their mates. And so actually we may find that it could even be worse, you know, that people will be going away and behaving badly and doing all the things they couldn't do when they were cooped up. Who knows? I think there's so many unknowns at the moment, and one of the unknowns, of course, is, are flights going to go up? There has been talk that flights could go up by, say, 50% in the short to medium term, and if that happens, then that would have more of an effect on whether people are going away or not than, you know, people feeling green would have. So I think it's really going to come down to factors like that. What are going to be the economics of running an airline? Fuel might be cheap at the moment, but there are lots of other reasons, particularly if social distancing is going to be introduced on planes. There'll be lots of other factors that are going to make flying really expensive. And so that could actually be very good for the environment.
Yeah.
So many factors, like I say.
Right, I've got 2 more, but we are sort of short of time. Emma, what do you think?
I think we should quickly ask the Italy question, because Natalie says, do you think Italy is off the map this year because of the initial press on highest numbers? What do you think about that, Sarah?
Personally, I don't think that Italy's off the map. I think that we are all just following, you know, they started sooner than us. I mean, I know that our Hearst International, our Italian office, are about to go back into the office this coming week. So my experience of it personally is just that we are looking at what they're doing, and know that we will be following suit in a couple of weeks' time, hopefully, but not necessarily with the office thing. But I just think that it started there before us, but hopefully it finishes there before us as well. I don't think Italy is off the agenda. I think Lyn's got an opinion. Lyn, you were doing this.
Lyn, what do you think?
I mentioned that we did a reader survey, and there was this free text field of you know, where will you go this year, and we were really surprised to see Italy doing really well. In fact, USA has done well as well, which again we thought, well, the travel to the USA will probably be hit. But that's come out really high as well. Although when we also asked people where they wouldn't go, there were some people who said they wouldn't go to the USA. But Italy, no. I think for our readers, the winners in where they want to go in Europe are Italy and Greece.
Interesting.
and Portugal just behind. So yeah, so I think like I say, we were surprised, but I think Italy is definitely going to rebound.
Yeah, good to hear it. Ed, would you feel the same?
No, it's banned. No, absolutely the same. It's, you know, the initial in the first couple of weeks when it all kicked off and that issue was on sale for us, it's like, oh. But on reflection, no, I mean, it's such a global phenomenon. I don't think anyone is possible, apart from Trump calling it the Chinese virus. I don't think anyone is singling out any particular destination as that's the one to avoid. I think we are, as they say, all in this together.
Brilliant. I think we've got to finish there. It's we've done 50 minutes. Thank you all, Sarah, Ed, Lyn. Really brilliant. Thanks, Alessia. It's been fantastic.
Do a quick plug for our Rockstars newsletters. Do sign up. roxhillmedia.com. It's a daily newsletter from insider journalists with great tips, and it's free to your inbox every day. Do sign up, and thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Have a great morning.
See you soon.